July 1940. Adolf Hitler was at the height of his power. France had fallen. Poland was crushed. Britain stood alone. America refused to get involved. Hitler told his generals, "We have already won the war." But 3 years later, his army froze to death in the snow of Stalingrad. 2 years after that, he was dead in a Berlin bunker. How did the most feared dictator in history lose everything? This is not just a story of battles. This is the story of 4 catastrophic mistakes that turned Hitler's dream of a 1,000-year empire into a 12-year nightmare. Welcome back. In our first video, we saw how World War II began. Today, we answer the question millions have asked: why did Hitler lose? Before we go further, if you want to understand history with just the facts, then hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Tap the bell so you never miss a story from the past that explains our present. Now, let's go back to 1940. In July 1940, Europe looked like this. Adolf Hitler had taken over almost all his neighbors: Austria, Poland, Norway, Belgium, Denmark, France. Only 3 major countries were left in Europe: Germany, the Soviet Union, and Britain. Germany and the Soviet Union had a peace agreement, so Britain stood alone against Hitler. America did not want to get involved. But Winston Churchill refused to surrender. He gave that famous speech: "We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall never surrender." Hitler realized he would have to invade Britain. But how? The British Royal Navy was much larger than Germany's, so Hitler decided to win control of the sky first. On 10th July 1940, the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, attacked Britain. Germany had 2,600 aircraft. Britain had only 700. The Germans bombed airfields and factories. The British Royal Air Force fought hard, but they were losing. Then, on the 24th of August 1940, some German pilots accidentally dropped bombs on London, killing civilians. Churchill was furious. He ordered a retaliation raid on Berlin. Hitler saw that and decided to destroy London completely. On the 15th of September 1940, Hitler sent more than 1,000 aircraft in one massive attack: 1,120 planes, including 620 fighters and 500 bombers. The British had only 630 planes. What happened next was historic. The British shot down more than 60 German aircraft and lost only 29 of their own. They stopped the German attack. This day is called Battle of Britain Day. Why did the much larger German Air Force lose? Simple. When you defend your own country, you fight for your existence. You have everything to lose. The British pilots knew that if they failed, their country would be gone. That motivation made all the difference. This was Hitler's first major defeat in World War II. He postponed the invasion of Britain and never tried again. Now Hitler turned his eyes east, toward the Soviet Union. Even though they had a peace treaty, Hitler hated the communists, and he had become drunk with power. Megalomania. He thought he could take over the world. Attacking the Soviet Union turned out to be a huge mistake. It became the turning point of the entire war. Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa on the 22nd of June, 1941. He divided his forces into 3 groups, one toward Leningrad, one toward Moscow, one through Ukraine. The Soviet army was much larger, 20,000 tanks versus Germany's 6,000, but German technology was better. At first, Hitler advanced quickly. Within weeks, his troops were only 300 kilometers from Moscow. But then 2 things happened. First, the Soviet Union joined Britain as an ally. Second, the cold weather arrived. The Germans were not prepared for the brutal Russian winter. The Soviets were used to fighting in the cold. Their troops had special winter equipment, and they knew the terrain. The Germans froze in their summer uniforms. And there was another twist. In December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. America had stayed out of the war until then. But after Pearl Harbor, the United States declared war on Japan and joined the Allied forces, Britain, the Soviet Union, and now America. More than 2,300 American troops were killed in that attack. The next day, America entered World War II. Now, Hitler had to fight the world's biggest industrial power as well. In mid-1942, Hitler focused on the south of the Soviet Union, the city of Stalingrad. He wanted to cut off the Soviet supply chain coming from Iran. The battle that followed was the deadliest of World War II. The German army almost captured the city, but the Soviets fought house by house, street by street. Winter came again. The German troops were surrounded. In February 1943, around 300,000 German soldiers surrendered. It was the most ghastly military disaster in German history. That was the biggest turning point. After Stalingrad, Hitler never regained the initiative. Meanwhile, in July 1943, the ordinary people of Italy had had enough. They pushed their dictator Mussolini out of power. A new Italian government surrendered to the Allies. Mussolini was later killed by Italian partisans, ordinary citizens who took up arms. Hitler had lost his main European partner. By late 1943, the Allied leaders, Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill, met in Tehran to plan how to finish the war. They agreed on a coordinated attack from the west and the east at the same time. Then came D-Day, June 6, 1944. More than 150,000 British, Canadian, and American soldiers landed on the beaches of Normandy in France. This was the largest seaborne invasion in history. They fought the German army on the ground and began liberating France. At the same time, the Soviet army launched a huge counterattack from the east. Within 2 months, they took back 600 kilometers of land from the Germans. Countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and Romania fell under Soviet control. Germany was now being crushed from both sides. Hitler tried one last gamble. In December 1944, he ordered a surprise attack through the Ardennes forest, the Battle of the Bulge. His goal was to split the Allied forces. But the attack failed. Germany had no more reserves left. They lost hundreds of tanks and thousands of soldiers they could not replace. By early 1945, the Allies were bombing German cities day and night. In February 1945, the city of Dresden was almost completely destroyed by Allied bombs. Some people later criticized these bombings because so many civilians died. But by that point, the goal was to force Germany to surrender as quickly as possible. The Allies also discovered the horror of Hitler's concentration camps, where millions of innocent Jews had been murdered. In February 1945, the Yalta Conference announced that any country that declared war on Germany could join the final attack. Many countries did: Venezuela, Turkey, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Lebanon, and Paraguay. All of them declared war on Germany in early 1945. The last 4 months of the war were the most painful. Nearly 30,000 people died every single day. In April 1945, the Soviet army surrounded Berlin. Hitler was in a bunker under the city. He realized he had lost. On 30th April 1945, he committed suicide. His wife, Eva Braun, died with him. On the 8th of May 1945, Germany formally surrendered. The war in Europe was over. But why did Hitler really lose? Let me give you the 4 main reasons. First, the Battle of Britain showed that Hitler could be stopped. He lost the air war, and he never managed to invade Britain. That was his first failure. Second, invading the Soviet Union was a fatal mistake. The sheer size of the country, the brutal winter, and the determination of the Soviet soldiers turned Hitler's greatest strength into his greatest weakness. The Soviet army was willing to sacrifice everything to defend their land. Third, the entry of the United States after Pearl Harbor brought the world's strongest economy and military into the war against Germany. American factories produced tanks, planes, and ships faster than Germany could destroy them. Hitler now faced Britain, the Soviet Union, and America, plus China and other allies. And fourth, the Allied strategy of fighting on two fronts, west and east, split the German army. They could not be strong everywhere. And when D-Day came, the trap was closed. Germany had to fight a war of attrition it could never win. So Hitler was defeated not by one single event, but by a series of his own mistakes and the relentless resistance of people who refused to live under his rule. Germany surrendered in May 1945, but World War II did not fully end until Japan surrendered 2 months later, after the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That is a different story. For now, remember, the war ended because Hitler overreached. He tried to fight everyone at once, and the world united against him. So, that is how Hitler lost, not by a single lucky shot, but by 4 fatal choices: underestimating Britain's courage, invading the Soviet Union in winter, forcing America into the war, and fighting on 2 fronts at once. World War II killed more than 70 million people. It redrew the map of Europe. If you missed the first part of this series, How World War II Began, click the link on your screen right now. Thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe to Forgotten Republic for more videos like this. See you in the next video.